Oh, I love that.
Hello, this is Infinite Humanitarians, and I'm Anne Marie Newman. And today I have the honor and privilege of sharing a conversation with a lifelong friend, Allegra Johnson. Allegra, welcome.
Oh, thank you.
Allegra and I have known each other for more than 20 years.
Mhm.
Hard to believe. Time has flown. We first met when I was hosting a couple of different nonprofit charity events, and Allegra was the manager of the venue. And we hit it off from the start. It started out as a very professional relationship, and it grew from there. And since then, over the 20 years, our lives have intertwined through different civic activities, through maybe some sports. And no matter what the season of our life is, we seem to keep crossing paths. And it's a true, true blessing because she is probably one of the most compassionate and dynamic leaders I know. So, with that, I want to let you know that in the last 7 years, we've really continued to grow our bond as she joined National Charity League, which is the mother daughter service organization I spoke about in an earlier podcast. So, in the last 7 years, first of all, when she and her daughter expressed interest, I told everyone, I'm like, you have to make sure that she joins because she is an amazing leader and will contribute so much to the organization, and she has. And she has just rolled off of being the president of our Dunwoody chapter and now serves as the past president. But that is one of many things. So I am going to start with her. She's a lifelong humanitarian with probably one of the broadest amount of experience in a variety of different organizations. So, for starters, Allegra, I'd like to know, like, where did your passion for service to others start?
I have to say, I think it backs up to my career and my career choice. I worked in the private club industry before becoming a mom of three, and I think I was very lucky that the location I ended up in, it was a it was a two-way street. Many people have the misconception of the private club industry that it's not. I ask what you want me to do. You say jump. I ask how high. And I was honored to and lucky that I ended up in a facility that wasn't like that. It was not what can you do for me? It was what can we do for each other and how can we help each other? So when I left that industry to be a mom, I took what I enjoyed in the private club industry and I took it into the schools. So as my son becomes a kindergartner, who's now 25, um, I decided so when we have donuts and coffee for teachers, let's take it up a notch. Let's just not leave them in the box. Let's add flowers. Let's add tablecloths. Let's add a little something to make it special. So that continued from coffee stations to elections. We pushed around a coffee cart for the people that were in line waiting to vote. So many
Yep,
people show up at 7 a.m. and they need their coffee.
yep,
So we did little things like that. I took it from the elementary school to the middle school. Teacher Appreciation Week. Okay, let's not just give them boxes. Let's lay out the food. Let's serve it to them. Because it wasn't a servitude, it was a thank you for what you have done for the children. Took
right.
it from there to the high school. And every group of parents is a little bit different. So when it came to the high school, it expanded to hey, let's do it for our seniors for Senior Appreciation Week. Let's show them congratulations. Again, not just a box, serve them. And when I mean serve them, it's like, you know what? Take the cookies out of the plastic container, put them on a nice platter, decorate them a little. And it's
Yep,
it's things that don't take a lot of time, but I really feel it shows somebody how much you appreciate them.
right.
And you're not doing it for the accolades, you're not doing it for the, wow, this is really, really neat. You're doing it because you want to show your appreciation and you want to
Right.
let people know, wow, you've had a huge impact. So that's kind of how it all got started. And then I've just kind of continued from that. I've actually ended back up in the private club industry with all of my children being older. But now I'm on the other side. I'm helping managers learn how to how to give that service and how to want to give that service.
Right.
Um, so I think that answers your question, Anne Marie. I may have gone around in circles on that one. Um,
No, no, I love it. And I think if I had one new phrase for you is take it up a notch.
yes.
That would sum up Allegra. No matter what she does, she takes it up a notch. She gives and gives and gives, and she has a refined the expertise in doing that with a really heart-centered, joyful way. I mean, it's so authentic. And as we know, I mean, we all think that love is the highest vibrating emotion, but actually, it's been studied and showed that authenticity. And I think you can always count on Allegra for an honest answer, for an authentic approach and a realistic approach to any type of situation. So yeah, you did answer it, and I want to also just add to what you were saying and saying that part of the reason that I started doing Infinite Humanitarians is to really share with everyone and encourage everyone, because we're all humanitarians. And like, so what the example you just gave of all the school activity. So a big shout out to all the parents who serve on associations, who support their kids academically, who support the schools, who support the sports programs, the arts programs, all those things. You are humanitarians. And I really want people to understand that being a humanitarian doesn't mean that you have to give a bazillion dollars away and it has to be called philanthropy. It's the golden rule in action, and that's what you live by. So, besides all of the school activities, I know you've done many other volunteer type positions. If you want to share about that, I'd love for you to tell us a little bit more.
Oh, sure. I do a lot with, I'm a Michigan State alumni. Very proud green and white, even though I'm down here in the South. I still bleed green and white and snow in some cases. Um, but I mentor students in the hospitality school. And by mentoring, being 700 miles away, it is just having a listening ear. My interview went really well, but I think I got the job, but I found out I didn't. They just need a listening ear. Um, and it's a safety net. I'd like to think of us that have more experience in the field. We're the safety net for the next generation. We have experienced the highs, the lows. Um, and sometimes people just need somebody to listen. Don't
Yeah,
say, you know, oh, you did this wrong or you did this wrong. No, that's not what people need to hear nowadays. They just need a sounding block. I think this went
right,
well, but it didn't. Do you have any ideas why? So it's not criticism. It's you're giving them feedback on a
right, right,
non-judgmental level.
right.
Feedback for these students that are either just entering college, where they're like, wow, this is a whole new world I didn't expect, to those students that are leaving after 4 years with the realization, I'm about to go into the real world and
Yeah,
I'm putting my hand out for help. And I think that that is the case in every organization. I think it's true in our National Charity League
right.
experience. We have our young seventh graders that come in full of excitement and then they go to their first philanthropy and they're like, I think I did what I was supposed to do. And then you show them the pictures and they're like, oh my God, that was really fun. So the next
Right.
experience is that much easier. To our seniors, right? 6 years later, they're like,
Yep.
wow, did I have an impact and I didn't even realize it.
Right.
I think that's the joy of it. I really do.
Yeah.
I think that's the joy of the light bulb comes on.
Right.
The light
And that
bulb.
I think that mentorship, that's so wonderful that you stay in contact with your university. And again, it's another example of giving back in a way that serves others, but you can tell just by the way you're talking that you get enrichment out of it too. And again, it's another area that I hope we start to see more done in, whether it's a technical school, whether it's an apprenticeship. I think apprenticeships need to come back. They need to become back in fashion because, until, like you said, with National Charity League and actually going on site and serving, you can have a whole mindset as to what something is going to be like, but till you actually do it, and then to have maybe a mentor or a mother or someone alongside to hold your hand through the process, give you some feedback and encouragement, and then you can really take off. So, that is so awesome that you are doing that.
Oh, thank you. And I think one thing to remember also is you never know where that mentor is going to come from.
Yeah,
It may be it may be somebody that lives in your neighborhood that
right,
wasn't at the same school, that isn't involved in the same things that you are. But all of a sudden that connection forms and it's not a textbook. There's not a certain these are the things that you need to follow to find a mentor that's good for you. The
right,
ones that are really good for you happen naturally. You don't
right.
plan on them entering your lives. A perfect example is you and me.
Yep,
Had
yep.
somebody told us, and I think it's 25 to 30. I started thinking about it. Had somebody said, ladies, you're going to start today, and in 25 years, you're both going to be part of National Charity League and helping others and working with others, we would have been like, okay, well,
Okay.
let's see. And look where we are. And it's not
I
planned.
know,
I think that's
I
the
know.
best, those are the best friendships and the best mentorships.
Right, right. And it is. It's that intertwining because we hit it off right from the bat. I had not hosted as many big events, and you filled in all the gaps very eloquently for me. And I felt like we just had again like a golden rule, relationship. It was such a mutual give and take. And again, that's another little tidbit to weave in here, I guess, is in grace is not only about giving, but grace is about receiving. And I think it's something that, especially for doers, sometimes can be hard. They're used to giving, 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 but to keep your cup full and keep you going, you have to have that give and take. And so I've just always just loved working with you in no matter what we do. And um, with that, I'd like to have you share a little bit more about what you do with, is it the Heritage Foundation?
With the Dunwoody Preservation Trust.
Yes, thank you, thank you.
So, the Dunwoody Preservation Trust is an organization, obviously here in Dunwoody, that keeps alive the history of our city. We've been a city, I believe we're a little past 15 years now that we actually became a city. But there is so much history in our area, and this
Right,
organization keeps that alive, keeps
right,
the knowledge of where Dunwoody was. Um, and the reason I got involved was another friend asked me to organize an event, a farm to table dinner event, and it just spiraled from there. I had great volunteers who had such a passion for the history as
right,
well as this event that
right.
it has spiraled to me being on the board. It has, I'm going to say, dominoed. We are hosting a wine event and we're bringing in Georgia wines, the history of Georgia. And
Yep.
we're asking high school students to help us. So we're bringing in the community to help with that wine event that we're going to do in March. And even more so, we're hosting field trips for elementary schools.
Oh,
So
really?
little
Where, like where?
at the farm, at the Bannister Farmhouse, at the I should say Donaldson Bannister Farmhouse. There's a long title. I call it the
Oh,
farm.
yeah, yeah.
So the goal was to host 3 field trips in the year. We are already up at 9.
Oh, of
So
course you are.
we have these kids that come in, they're kindergartners to 5th graders. We're staying at the elementary school level. And they just come in and they want to learn.
Right.
And Anne Marie, I am not a teacher, but you put me in a room with a bunch of little kids and I turn into a kid myself. And we were making kites and we're talking about Ben Franklin and it's it just really is heartwarming to see these little kids and you ask
Right.
them if they had fun. And you know what? They came in with no real expectations.
Right.
And we as adults, I think sometimes put expectations on ourselves instead of just enjoying the moment. We think we have to be somebody. We think we have to be this perfect example, and we don't. We just have to show them we care.
Right.
And I'll be honest with you, it took two rounds of these little kindergartners until I could really figure out how to make this kite. And we taped and we glued and we colored and it took me 2 sessions. It took me 2 sessions. But the kids were great. Miss
Yeah.
Allegra, it's easier if you do this. From
Mhm.
a 6-year old. What
Right.
more pleasure can you get than this little one teaching you something new? So now we are doing a variety of history lessons based on the age of the children, and it just really is fun. You see them light up. But that's a new thing that the farm has taken on. And
Right.
we've we've let DeKalb County know because they are all DeKalb County public schools that come in the elementary schools and said, hey, you know what? We're right in your backyard. Bring them over. We have had a
Right.
couple of kids ask where the farm animals are because they're going to the farm, but we don't have any animals right now. Um,
Yeah.
and it's an old farm that was originally did have horses, etc. here in Dunwoody. But I think that might be the next step is that we have to bring in animals
Yeah.
because they are looking for the animals.
Oh, I bet. I
Yeah,
bet.
yeah,
Well, I mean, I love that. There's so many lessons in what you just said. I mean, really staying in the moment, is something that, I can't say enough about, and that I think we all can, in 2025 here, strive to do a little bit more. I know I need to. And when I do, it just has such a beautiful ripple effect.
hmm
And then the other is just that give and take. And, maybe perfectionism is a little overrated. Like you said,
yeah,
you know, here it took this little one to help you build the kite. And you'll never forget that.
yeah,
And and then, to pull it full circle again, is that what you're really doing there is service learning leadership. And I
yes.
think it's something that, we've kind of naturally, as lifelong humanitarians, have done with our children. But service learning leadership is meeting the child or the young adult at whatever level that they are. And I know, like my children's school, um, they did things like what you're talking about. It was, with the kindergarteners, they went and saw the fire trucks. Well, that was really exciting, but they also learned a little bit more about why there are fire trucks and so
Right.
forth. And so, service learning leadership then, can start at a very fundamental level. And then, like we've seen with our girls in National Charity League, they go on to elect boards, learn Robert's Rules of Order, learn to write grants, and really develop their public speaking, their leadership skills, and their interpersonal skills. They're there with 250, 300 girls, a lot of them that they never knew,
hmm
and learning just to get along with people is something that I think, in this post-COVID era, we all have to, um, kind of study up on and stretch and grow our skills in.
Well, and I also think a lot of and I do honestly believe, I think it's come full circle,
Yeah.
is people need to learn how to talk to other people. We're not all going to agree, but we can all learn from each other,
Right.
and learning from each other
Right.
does not mean reading each other's texts. It means, hey, let's meet face to face because and I did it was actually something that my daughter said. She goes, "That text, the message is how you perceive it, not necessarily how the sender typed it." And I was like, "Wow." Because you cannot watch a facial expression when you're reading on a phone.
Right.
But when you're having a conversation with somebody, a lot of what you realize in your conversation are your facial expressions, right? It's
Yeah.
a short answer versus a longer answer. And I think that is part of, and I credit you for this a lot, Anne Marie, is you want to be face to face.
Yeah.
We're not talking just on the phone. You're like,
Right.
come over, let's chat, let's talk. And the amount of people that I have met through you, because it was face to face, I've made those connections.
Oh, I'm so glad.
I've made those connections, and
Yeah.
I think that's a huge part of it. And I think that's a huge part of your program now with, Infinite Humanitarians. Nobody does
Yeah.
it for the bells and whistles. We
Right.
don't do it for the accolades.
Right.
And I really think those people that hide behind screens are doing it for the accolades. It's the people that put themselves out there that you know the true person. Those are the true
Right.
humanitarians, the ones that are
Right.
getting out from behind those screens.
Well, first of all, thank you. Thank
Well,
you so much because I know sometimes it shocks people because I'll pick up the phone and I'll say, my fingers are tired of typing and I'm
yes,
going to save us a dozen email messages. And sometimes I have to leave, a voicemail and, a text to get people to even pick up in this day and age.
yes,
And, for the most part, if they have me saved in their phone, they do. But it is, and I know it's our era, that we had a lot more face to face because we didn't always have the technology that, exists there. And, what you just said, I think beautifully kind of dovetails with one other area I'd like to talk about is KYC. And KYC is a banking term. It's know your customer. And for some reason, right when I heard it, I was like, I'm going to make that sound a little different. And what about know your community? And what I would like to kind of gift back to you is, Allegra, you know your community. You know the civic areas, you know the schools, you know the people in the grocery store. You have such a wide variety of friends and connections. And it's really a gift and a talent that in this day and age of being so busy, we've lost track of, I
mm-hmm.
mean, and so I commend you in jumping into just a variety of projects, and I would encourage other people to do that. You like you said, you don't have to be the expert in order to participate. What do they say? Success is built on showing up on time, being dressed appropriately, and ready to play.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't say anything about level of expertise or anything. It's a willingness. And I think, that's where, again, part of the reason I'm doing this is there's been a lot of talk about humanitarian projects and humanitarian efforts and, very grandiose projects, very small projects. And I can't say it enough. Start today, do
Mm-hmm.
something. And, again, if you're raising children, if you have, 2, 3 jobs, if you're having some health issues, pray and meditate for the world. We can all do something on some level. I mean, do you have something? I know you have something creative and good to add to that.
Just gonna say, do things that you enjoy, that are fun. And you know what?
Right.
It's okay to say no every once in a while. So, someone said to me, by you saying yes to something, you have indirectly said no to something else. And it's true. You
I love that.
and I never really thought about it, but you say yes to a committee. Well, you've said no to something else. You've said no to spending that extra time with your family. But if you say yes to something you enjoy, more than likely you're either involving your family or you're involving your friends because you want them to enjoy it as much as you do.
Right.
So I really, every once in a while, I remind myself is by saying yes to this, what am I saying no to?
Right.
And it does stop you. It's okay to say no. I think that's another fallacy that you have to say yes to everything.
Yep.
And
Yep.
you don't. Saying
Yep.
no doesn't mean you don't like someone. It just means not my cup of tea.
Right.
Which say it early on because when you get a couple months into it and you're not having fun, you've wasted those couple of months. Have
Right.
fun doing what you're doing.
Right.
And I was talking about, being dressed and being on time. If you want to wear the pajama pants and nobody's going to see you, then wear the pajama pants. I
Just
would
don't stand. Just don't stand up mid interview
like
or mid meeting.
exactly. Now, if think about how many people you see walking through the airport. This is a great example that they just look so uncomfortable. And then you're sitting there and you're like, I have the sweatshirt, I have the pants. I look decent, but I'm comfortable because
Right.
I'm dressed for me. I'm not dressed for anybody else.
Right.
So sometimes you have to put yourself first. You
Right.
have to put yourself first. And I think it does. Another saying I heard is, you can't whistle an orchestra. And I was like,
I don't think
I,
I've ever heard that. I love
I
that.
haven't either. And I'm like, you're right. You can't whistle an orchestra. There are others that have to be with you to fulfill that orchestra, that sound. So ask
I'm
people.
writing this down. You can't whistle an orchestra.
You can't whistle an orchestra.
Love it.
Thank you.
I
So
just love that.
I think it's do what you like to do, and
Mhm.
it will spiral into other things that you never thought it would. Be
Right.
it friendships, be it volunteering for other organizations. I mean, again, with National Charity League, we had so much fun at some of our philanthropies that
Right.
I will continue to volunteer.
Right.
Um, but it wouldn't have happened had I not taken this journey with my daughter. Had
Right.
I not been asked by somebody, "Oh, this is the organization for you. This is where you will fit in." But
Right.
somebody had to ask me. Somebody had to
Right.
guide me, hold out their hand and say, "You know what? Let's do this together."
Right.
And
Right.
I think that's a big part of it. Yep.
Yeah. That that's awesome. I love it. And I think and I hope people can feel this in our frequency in our friendship that we share is I can truly say you meet the nicest people doing volunteer work
Yes.
and or working for a cause. I mean, there are many people who, in Allegra and my position, most of the time we are volunteers, we are unpaid. There are a lot of nonprofit and other organizations where people are paid, but they're still working in a very passionate and service oriented position.
Mhm.
And both of those scenarios are great. Like there a lot of times there has to be a paid staff to really run something. And then, like in an earlier interview that I did with CAC, Community Action or Community Assistance Center, they had, I think, something like, and you might know better, but I think Francis Horton said that they have 25 staff members, but they really rely on their 400 volunteers.
Mhm.
And so again, it's a really beautiful example of collaboration and accountability with and without pay.
Mhm.
And when you're doing that, I think it really keeps you heart centered, and you come to it with, um, I don't know, just great passion, and you also receive fulfillment back. And fulfillment, I think, is something that you just can't put a price on.
Right.
What do you think?
I was just thinking about, how you get paid. There are there's dollar signs with everything. I mean, we're kidding ourselves if we don't think there are dollar signs. But it made me think of, and Anne Marie, you met this gentleman from CAC. Um, he is paid at the Sandy Springs location with CAC. Um, and he was invited to our 20th anniversary celebration
I
for our
remember
county
that.
chapter. Um, and he came up to me And he said, "Thank you for inviting me." He goes, "I don't know why you did, but thank you." And he has been such a, it wasn't the CEO of CAC, it wasn't any of the C's, CEO, CFO, CMO. Put three letters together with a C and an O and you got something. Um, but he's not doing it to be recognized. And when we asked him to be in pictures, again, he didn't do it to be in the picture. He did it because he had formed a connection with our Dunwoody chapter, with our young ladies, with our moms. And his three rules, and again, there's certain things that you never forget. Your first day volunteering at his location, he said, "These are my rules." Very straight faced, no smile. So at first you're like, oh my gosh, here we go. You will have fun. You will not lift anything heavy. There will be no stress involved. And I will make you smile. Okay.
Oh,
And by golly, that gentleman does.
yeah.
He will check on you. How are we doing? Are we okay? Do you want to keep doing that? Do you want to do something else? And the community that comes in, not the volunteers, but the community that need the help, they all know him by name. And he knows what they need. And he will, for those of you that don't know the CAC, it's a kitchen, I guess, well, more like a grocery store. I think isn't that a better way to explain it, Amory?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and he knows that when certain people come in, they're looking for certain things. Um, and I'm going to say something as simple as SpaghettiOs, but he will walk them over and say, you know what, we just had a huge delivery that I think you're going to like these things. He doesn't have to do that,
Yeah.
but
Right.
his example and his
Right.
smile is just, it's contagious. I think that's what it is. It's,
Yep.
it's contagious in a good way. I don't know if you can say
Yep.
contagious post COVID because it's not really a good word anymore. But his enthusiasm and his smile, and when he came to our event, he was the exact same person.
Yep.
It wasn't a facade. That's really who he is.
Right.
And we did have quite a few ladies go up and say hello to him. And
Yeah.
he sent me a thank you note afterwards. And he said, "Thank you for including me." Um,
Wow.
and again, you don't do it for that, but I know in my heart that that gentleman is going to remember that event, and
Oh,
he's going to
yeah.
remember the women and the daughters that have worked with him and volunteered with him.
Yeah.
And that's what it's about. That's
Well,
what
I was actually fortunate to sit at the table where he sat down to eat, and I can't remember his name. Do you remember his name?
I do. I didn't know if I was supposed to. Yeah, his name is Clarence.
Clarence. I'd like to give him a shout out because
Yes. I
I
don't know his
know.
last name.
Okay, Clarence, we love you.
Yep.
But he was so humble. He was so authentic.
Mm-hmm.
And it just, what that little story there, or the sharing that you just did, kind of ties everything together. He knows his community. So the people that come in and shop at the market, they may be, the working poor, or, in a struggling, situation, which can be so stressful. And
Mm-hmm.
to have somebody look at you not only and acknowledge you, but like know that this is like an item you usually look for
Mm-hmm.
is such, a blessing. And then on top of it, to be so humble and appreciative to be included when, we're just so honored that he came, I think is what,
Yeah.
how we kind of felt. And then you brought up something else, the sending a thank you note. What a lost art. I was pretty strict with my children about that, and I will have to say myself, I've gotten a little lax in that area, and it's one of my 2025 um, kind of goals is to do that again, because so often I send a thank you on text or some other way, and when you get a handwritten thank you note, it's incredible. So
Yep.
what again, another amazing Clarence, you are a hero to us and to so many. And I love that story. I love
And
that.
he really, again, he doesn't do it for the accolades, and he doesn't do it for the bells and whistles.
Right.
But like you said, receiving that thank you note, that gentleman took the time to find a card, to find a pen. I know that sounds crazy, but I'm not using my thumbs, I'm using a pen. Um, and to put a stamp on it and to take it to the mailbox. There's a lot of steps to just doing a thank you note. And you're right, Anne Marie, when you get one in the mail that doesn't look like junk mail because you actually saw somebody's handwriting, um, it's really kind of exciting.
It is. It's
It's
very
exciting.
exciting.
Yeah.
It's also and to, I guess, piggyback on that is, when you actually get a birthday card. I mean, I know you can get the electronic ones, and that's good too, because now, I mean, a stamp is $1, I mean, but and when you buy cards these days too, some of them can be, pretty pricey. I actually use some of my children's artwork and other pictures and sometimes make my own because it's just more practical and affordable and personal. But yeah, that alone could be a humanitarian effort, is sending people encouraging cards and thank yous and birthday cards and things like that. It's, again, it doesn't have to be the $1 billion donation.
Mhm.
Everyone can be a humanitarian.
And I think the time that somebody gives is just as worthy as
Yep.
somebody writing a check.
Right.
There's many people that can give unlimited amount of time, but they can't write that check.
Right.
And
Right.
you accept what people are willing to offer. I don't want to say
Right.
can give, what they're willing to offer.
Right.
And
Right.
I that's another lost art. I think that we have put out there, well, if you can't offer X, Y, and Z, we don't want you. And I
Right.
think that's part of what we've lost. If you can only offer X, come on over. You don't
Yeah.
have to do Y and Z. If you can
Right.
only do Y and you can't do X and Z, that's fine.
Right.
Just
Right.
just come be you. I think that's a big part of what we lost. Just come be you.
Yeah. Yeah. And with that, you know, I know that what's happened in, Hawaii and Florida and North
Mhm.
Carolina and California, I mean, my heart, I know your heart goes out
Mhm.
to everyone. Any disaster, any tragedy is one too many. And yet, when you really look at all the people who have answered the call, I mean, I know so many people who have, answered the call to, provide donations of food, clothing, monetary donations, tarps, tents, sleeping bags, you name it. And so many organizations that have really rallied in
Mhm.
doing so. And again, it's another reason why I decided to finally do this little podcast of mine, or of ours, um, is the fact that, we have to get out there and take a step, and just like, you know the famous, and I hope I say it correctly, don't ask what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country.
Mhm.
And it doesn't have to be a natural disaster for it to first happen.
Right.
If we all found something we're passionate about, and whether you can, meditate about it, pray about it, give a monetary donation, to give your time, your talent. I mean, I like in Community Action Center, something new that I learned was the need for people to do tax returns. And so here, there's CPAs who probably, are already busy or may have retired, and they come forward and they help hundreds of people. And so whatever your talent is, whatever your gifted area, whatever you like to do, like you said, or whatever you newly discover,
Mhm.
if we each came forward to take some action, we can transform our world, and I think we are. I think, we're seeing that whole ripple effect happen. And again, I'm not trying to minimize what has happened. I am so deeply sorry for all of these disasters. My heart goes out to each and every person. I mean, I can't even imagine sometimes, but it's amazing how people will answer the call. And I mean, we put out a call for North Carolina, and National Charity League inundated us with hundreds of boxes of diapers. My fiance said, when is this going to stop? I said, hopefully never. He's like, well, I'd like part of my garage back. But anyways, I mean, but like you're saying, I mean, people did all sorts of things. They cleaned out their closets. They stepped up. And so I think, that's, and I think you can see in our discussion, and I'm kind of fumbling maybe for the right words, but that fulfillment, that sense of purpose, and the feeling of belonging is something that Allegra and I share. And it's, you can't put a price on it.
Right. And, and I think along with that is every once in a while, just check in on your friends. I have a sorority sister who, as volunteer, she goes with her service animal to airports to help people who are anxious getting on planes. And I know there's a technical word. It's not a service. It's more than a service dog.
Right.
Where she just literally walks the airport in Ohio to help people that are anxious before they get on a flight. And she started something, it's probably been at least 5 years. She just makes random phone calls to people, says, hey, how are you doing? What's new this week? Not there's anything, if there's something wrong with you, not I've heard you're, an issue or whatever, just a call to say hi. And I have to say, I love getting that phone call because
I love that.
And I don't know how else to say it. There's no strings attached.
Right.
I know she's just calling to say hi.
It's non-transactional.
Exactly. That's yes.
She's not looking for anything. It's just that, hey, how are you?
Mm-hmm. And that's
wow.
And I think that's huge. And it doesn't take time. And I know I was saying don't text people. Call them. Don't text and say, how are you doing? Because take that little effort and just call somebody, like you said. Dial the phone. And if they don't answer, leave a voicemail. Hey, I'm just checking in on you. How you doing?
Yeah.
And it really can bring a smile to somebody's face because you don't know what kind of day they had. Right? Or like we're in the snow and it's cold. And I've had more northern people call me and say, are you okay? Do you have heat? Do you have running water? I'm like, okay, people, I'm okay. I grew up in Chicago. I'm okay.
Yeah. Well, my little fairy goddaughter, her mother lives in Florida, and she's snowed in. I mean, she sent us pictures that we couldn't imagine. We were like, whoa, wow, it's crazy. But I love that. And actually, I'm just going to ask you on air right now is I'd love to connect with your friend and interview her because I love both of those things. And I think what you're saying about the airport is I think it's called an emotional support animal.
Yes.
Is that what it is?
I knew there was another. I thought a service animal because isn't that what's on their vests?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of a combination of both. They're a service animal that is providing emotional support. So, and I haven't interviewed anybody that does that. So I'd love to interview her. And then I'd also like to piggyback on the hi, how are you? Because, I try to do some of that too, and I'm going to try a little bit more. And I also, I don't, like you're saying, no expectation. I'll leave, like if I miss them, like, hey, I was thinking about you. And, if you have a chance, give me a call back. If you don't, no big deal. Because again, like we never know what is going on in someone's life. And, it brings me back. You've hit on so many great things. This is so helpful. I just love you. And again, you might have to help me with it, is one of my favorite books, and is The Four Agreements. Always do your best, be impeccable with your word, don't make assumptions
Mhm.
and don't take anything personally. And wow, like especially
Mhm.
that last one took me a while, and I still have some growth area. But you know, it is. I think if we show up that way, we can dissect some of this confusion or miscommunication.
Yes. And
So,
I think that that last one, don't take it personally. If anyone has 100% figured that out, they need to write another book because I have never come across somebody that doesn't take something personally.
oh, it's so hard.
It's
It's
human nature. And if you have any type of emotions, don't tell me you don't take it personally, you know?
right.
And
Yeah,
just as much as we take the negative personally, where I'm like, okay, don't say that it doesn't happen. How is it that we take all the positive personally, but we don't take the negatively personally? It's a
right,
two-way street. It doesn't work that way. You take
right,
one with the other.
right,
Um,
right.
and it the personal aspect, and I have been asked, would I ever go into public office? Nope. Have absolutely no desire. Because,
Really?
and this is why, because I couldn't be me. Because I really think there's too many people that if they knew the me, they'd be like, no, you don't need to be doing this. Go behind the seat. You don't need to be doing this. Um, because
I'm just trying to crack. I just crack it up. Well, I don't know if I mean, in some of the stereotypical ways, I can see what you're saying. However,
because you know me.
I'm hoping that excuse me, as we you got me choked up here. As we move into 2025, I hope some of that changes. I hope people can, be authentic. Part of, I think it was, well, I don't want to get too political, but I think it was Marjorie Taylor Greene who said, when did running for office become a blood sport? And,
Yeah,
I mean, none of us are perfect.
right.
And, so those two things in mind, I actually think you would be great in
Well, thank you.
community. And if you run, I will help support you.
Well, thank you. But there are, there's to me, and there are positions that I would like to be elected to that are not public office. Different organizations
Can I put you on the spot? Like what?
like National Charity League. So
Right,
I have now that I'm finishing my Dunwoody journey. I would really love to join their national board
right,
because with over the 300 chapters that we have, and they're nationwide,
right,
but California is not the same as Georgia.
right,
Wisconsin's not the same as Florida. And we don't, and I think that's part of National Charity League. We're not all supposed to be the same.
right.
But I just think they need a little Southern hospitality and Southern knowledge to come
Right.
on the board. So I am running for that, but to me, that's not public office. That's an organization that I know, and that I know I can be me. I know I can
Well,
be me.
you would be on the board, right, as a director?
Yes,
Because
yes,
I did,
that is the hope.
yeah, and just being transparent, I did write a recommendation for you, and I think that they would be very, very fortunate to get you to give your time as a director.
You.
So what about actual real politics?
I stay away from that. I
Yeah,
am just agree to disagree kind of
yeah,
person. And there's so much good in the world that I just think right now I think politics overshadow a lot
right.
of the really good that's going on because we can't have conversations anymore.
But
If
what about the local? What like local, like in Dunwoody? Would you run for something in Dunwoody?
no,
No,
you know why? Because I want to stay in Dunwoody. I don't want to move away from Dunwoody. I was asked to help with the committee for the DeKalb School District,
right,
and it's redistricting. They've now called it realignment. because I guess if we come up with a different word, it sounds better. But no, I don't want to leave Dunwoody. And it's not, well, you know how we talk about having a thick skin and not letting negativity take over?
Yeah.
I I don't want to try and make everybody happy. I want to make people happy that what I think is important, they also think is important. And I'll be honest with you,
Right.
Emery, it is not the lights on the streets and the stop signs and the home exemption tax. That is not me. That is not
Yeah.
me. I am more field
Well,
trips and making kites with kindergartners.
and giving tours at Dunwoody High School
Yes.
and all those things. Well, that, I think I'm going to wrap us up with that because it says you walk your talk.
Mhm.
And I appreciate your authenticity and your candor. And most of all, I appreciate your fabulous friendship. You mean the world.
Likewise.
You mean the world to me. So with that being said, would you like to close with anything else?
I just, yes, appreciation to you. Appreciation to you. Because it takes somebody to start bringing people together and to take that first step. And I go back to where we started 30 years ago. You and I never in our wildest dreams would have imagined we'd be doing this. And
Right.
I think that just proves you never know. You don't do it
Yep.
for a certain purpose. And if you're lucky enough to find a friendship and a kinship that you can carry on through your life, I think that's the greatest gift possible. And you are one of those gifts. And I wish more people could do that. And I could the beautiful tiara that I would love to put on your head that says, I am a gift to all. Um,
Oh my gosh.
yeah, I really I might have to invent that. I might have to
Well,
design that. That might be our next project.
there we go. And right back at you.
Yeah.
Right back
But
at you.
thank you.
You are
I appreciate
okay.
this. And it really means a lot that you asked me to do this. It
Well, I am
really it
so
means more
honored.
than you realize.
I'm so honored that you said yes, and thank you. And then just before we close, again, you've just brought up so many great ways to remind me. If you are listening to this and you would like to be interviewed, or kind of an unsung hero who is working on their passion project in a nonprofit, whether they're being paid or they're volunteer, please feel free to reach out to me. You can find me at Infinite Humanitarians at gmail.com, and it's Infinite Humanitarians with an S at gmail.com. And I'd be happy to connect with you. And then just keep in mind that the podcast is free as well as it is commercial free. And I just like to make sure that everybody knows before they connect. So thank you so much, Allegra. Have a fabulous 2025. And I look forward to seeing you next week when your daughter is being honored as a leader. And I'm going to get choked up, and I know, the two of us
Okay.
are going to need a couple boxes of Kleenex. But like we've talked about, and I know I've already said I'm wrapping up, and if I had to add this is Allegra's amazing, dynamic daughter, who has not only a leader, a female leader, a gymnast, a very talented athlete, very talented student, a very compassionate person. But she has really led the way in National Charity League, and she is going to go on to a very successful career in college and beyond. And I think that's one of the biggest gifts in working with that mother-daughter relationship and organization is to watch our girls blossom and to watch the mothers, be that mentor. And again, it's a give and take. A lot of times our daughters are teaching us to do things and we're teaching them, but I know that it's also can be a little bittersweet because they go off and what is that saying? Give them roots and wings. But But again, congratulations to you and your daughter on successfully completing 7 years with National Charity League and doing so in a exemplary and extremely successful fashion.
Thank you. Thank you, Emery. It's been a pleasure. Thank you very
Take
much.
care, honey. Talk to you
Bye-bye.
soon.
Bye.
Bye.